After Franklin G. died, I realized that I was merely a substitute for his unforgettable first love. Yet, I had been pampered by him like a beloved wife. For 40 years, I never cooked, never did any housework, and knew nothing. My daughter scolded me for being spoiled, saying I was as dumb as a pig. She said I was not as trendy as the madam her father liked and kicked me out of the house. Only after leaving did I realize I couldn't use ride-hailing apps, connect to Wi-Fi, or even find the payment code for mobile payments. Later, I learned how to use various apps, practice yoga, live stream, and cook. Occasionally, I even danced in the square with a few old men. Just when I was thriving, my husband came back to life. He came with red eyes and brought our daughter to ask me to come home. I looked at them in surprise and said, "Daughter? Sorry, I only have the one behind me." As for my husband, he's been dead for years, and the grass on his grave is 2 meters high. Chapter 1. After leaving the villa, it was still pouring rain outside. I held an umbrella in one hand and a suitcase in the other, standing bewildered by the roadside. Although I was determined to leave the city, I was still at a loss facing the traffic alone. After all, I had never left home alone in 40 years since marrying Franklin at 20. But now, whether I wanted to or not, I had to leave. Maybe because of the rain, there were very few taxis. Even though I tried to hail one, none stopped, because all the taxis had passengers. Perhaps seeing me trying to hail a taxi, a passerby couldn't stand it and reminded me, "Madam, use a ride-hailing app. A driver will quickly come to pick you up." I didn't have the app downloaded, nor did I know how to use it. Although it was a bit embarrassing to say, I humbly asked, "Young man, I don't know how to use the app. Can you teach me?" The young man was dubious but mumbled, "You look around my mom's age. How can you not know this? Forget it. I'll teach you." He taught me patiently, and I tried hard to learn. Suddenly, the girl next to him whispered something in his ear. He looked at me in surprise and finally exclaimed, "No way. Is it really her?" Then he laughed out loud. I knew it. Even an old madam can't be this dumb. Turns out you're that famous pampered wife from the internet. Being called a pampered wife. I was shocked and puzzled. After persistent questioning, the young man showed me a short video. In it, Franklin was pampering me, while my daughter complained beside me. See, I wasn't lying, right? My mom is 60 and can't take care of herself. I'm not exaggerating, but she always needs my dad to turn on the TV. I wanted to say the last part was exaggerated, but I moved my lips and said nothing. In the age of the internet, isn't this what people want to see? This video had tens of thousands of likes and even more comments. Almost every comment was scolding me for being a pampered wife. The most liked comment said, "This isn't a pampered wife. At this age, she's clearly a pampered old lady." It even made the terms pampered old lady and pampered wife popular, spreading across the online literature community. Chapter 2. At that time, Franklin did take care of me meticulously, although he had a company to manage. Since marrying me, he delegated most of the work to his subordinates. Even for meetings, he only attended via video conference. Occasionally, he went to the company, but most of the time, he stayed by my side. He said he fell in love with me at first sight and fell even deeper the second time. Back then, I always felt that when he looked at me, it seemed like he was looking at someone else through me, but his thoughtful care and repeated declarations of love gradually dispelled this thought. After all, who can pretend to love deeply for 40 years? I started telling myself I was overthinking. Looking back now, he said he liked my long, straight black hair, so I didn't get my hair done, even when I started getting gray hair with age. I dyed it black on purpose. He also made me eat carrots and tomatoes that he personally cooked, even though I didn't like them at all. Everything had a hidden motive. Long, straight black hair was the favorite hairstyle of his unforgettable first love, and carrots and tomatoes were that woman's favorites. Even the stuffed toys that filled the bedside were her preferences. In hindsight, I was the foolish one, blinded by so-called love. It wasn't until Franklin's funeral that I saw the woman who resembled me by 70% that I finally understood. No, it should be said that I resembled her by 70%. The funny thing is, even though I knew the truth, even though that woman declared her dominance and said Franklin was only using me as a substitute. I announced that nothing mattered anymore, but for some reason, when I think back now, my chest still feels a dull pain. Chapter 3. Perhaps even the heavens agreed with my decision to leave this heart-wrenching city. I quickly managed to hail a car to the high-speed rail station. I didn't know where to go, pondering that perhaps I could go to a place with spring-like weather all year round, far away from here. So I set my destination to Kunming. Unfortunately, the line at the manned ticket window was too long. Seeing the long queue, I hesitated, perhaps noticing my anxiety. A person dressed like a staff member approached me and said, "Madam, the line at the manned window is too long. If you're in a hurry, it's more convenient to buy tickets online. Once you buy them, you don't need to pick them up. You can enter the station just by scanning your ID card. It's indeed convenient. But for me, it wasn't." Looking at the online ticket purchase process pasted nearby, I was stumped by the first step. I needed to scan a QR code with WeChat, but I didn't know where to open the scanner. Seeing my clumsiness, the staff member frowned and reached out for my phone. I handed my phone to him, and he began to help me buy a ticket to Kunming. After he finished, the staff member handed my phone back to me. A bystander muttered, "If you're old and don't know how to use it, don't come out and create trouble. Give the young people a chance to catch their breath. Isn't that better?" I looked at him, and the young man sneered. "What are you looking at, useless old woman? I'm talking about you." Perhaps it was because I hadn't eaten all day, and my hypoglycemia kicked in again. Before I could retort, I felt the world spinning around me. Instinctively, I reached into my pocket for some candy, but it was empty. When Franklin was alive, he would always put a few candies in my pocket. After he left, I forgot to do it myself. It seems they were right. I really am useless. As I was about to faint, a candy was put into my mouth. Then a gentle, pleasant female voice said, "Madam, I'm a doctor. You're having a hypoglycemic episode. Open your mouth and eat this candy first." Chapter 4. When I woke up again, I was sitting on a chair in the waiting room. My head was resting against a young girl, about 25 years old. At that moment, her eyes were red, and she was staring at the conversation on her phone. I wasn't intentionally peeking, but a casual glance showed me the 2 lines of messages. "She's back. Let's break up." Although I'm not up to date with trends and not very good with smartphones, I'm not so dumb as to not know what those 2 sentences mean. Noticing that I was awake, the young girl turned to look at me. She quickly turned off her phone screen and discreetly wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. Then she put on a beautiful smile. "Madam, you're awake. How are you feeling?" I told her I was much better and thanked her. Everyone has their own story, and so do I. Seeing that she didn't want to talk about it, I pretended to know nothing. Her name was Sue April, and in our chat, I learned that she was also going to Kunming. Not only were we on the same train, but we also had seats next to each other. When she heard that I didn't know how to use a smartphone, she was quite surprised. Then she patiently taught me step by step. Seeing her patient expression while teaching me, I felt a tinge of emotion. I've lived this long, and even my daughter was impatient to do this. Yet a stranger was so patient in teaching me. Perhaps because the journey was long, we gradually opened up to each other and started talking freely. To my surprise, not only were our journeys similar, but our experiences were also quite similar. The difference was that I found out about Franklin's unforgettable first love after he passed away in my old age, and she had rushed headlong into love at 18, only to find out 2 years later that she was a substitute. At that moment, 2 souls 40 years apart found solace in each other. April suddenly took my hand and made a significant decision. "Madam, let's live together." Chapter 5. When she said that, my first reaction was, of course, to refuse. After all, after Franklin's death, I once thought I wouldn't live much longer either. He was only 6 years older than me and couldn't escape life. Old age, illness, and death. Let alone me. I didn't want to burden a young person with my aging, and in the future, increasingly frail body. After my gentle refusal, her attitude remained firm. "Mom, from now on, I am your daughter, April was a doctor and had voluntarily applied to be transferred to Kunming. She had a house here, not in the city center, but in a nice environment. There was a small courtyard in front of the house, and despite the lack of maintenance, thanks to the environment, the flowers and plants in the yard thrived surprisingly well. After we arrived, we made a decision that very night. She would go to work, and I would open a flower shop, selling flowers both offline and following the trend, doing live streams to teach flower arranging and sell flowers. Although Franklin had spoiled me into a pampered old lady, I had a passion for flower arranging. After studying it for decades, I might not be a master, but I was considered quite skilled. As for live streaming, I was confident that with April's help, if I didn't get it right the first time, I would eventually master it after a few more tries. Luckily, live streaming wasn't difficult. The business was hard at the start, taking slow and steady steps, but thanks to my high flower arranging skills and persistence, I had amassed a small following of tens of thousands within a year and a half. Although it wasn't enough to make us rich, it was enough for us to buy whatever we wanted without hesitation. Until one day, an unexpected visitor came to the flower shop. Chapter 6. It was a somewhat familiar figure. At first, I thought it was my eyes playing tricks on me. It wasn't until the old man's features gradually came into view that I realized I wasn't dreaming. But it was real. The person in front of me was Franklin, who had supposedly died of a heart attack. My heart ached fiercely, but when our eyes met, I quickly composed myself. I suppressed my hoarse voice and asked nonchalantly, "Are you choosing a bouquet for your wife? Is it her birthday or some anniversary?" Today was neither Valentine's Day nor any other holiday. After a year and a half of life experiences, I had learned a lot about social niceties. With my question, the old man in front of me lifted his head to look at me. He opened his mouth in surprise, then stammered, "I'm just looking," before hastily fleeing. I finally confirmed that he was indeed Franklin. The heart attack and failed rescue were a lie. His faked death was the truth. For that woman, Franklin not only abandoned me but also willingly gave up the G family's hundreds of billions in assets. What I didn't expect was that ever since our encounter at the flower shop, I frequently ran into Franklin near my home. Even if I didn't see his face clearly, just seeing that familiar figure from afar, with whom I had lived for decades, was enough to know who it was. I was a bit curious and too lazy to continue pretending. The next time I saw Franklin peeking around, I chose to take the initiative. I appeared before him as he was looking around. "Mr. G, shouldn't you be accompanying your wife? What are you doing at my little flower shop?" Perhaps not expecting to be caught, Franklin, who was usually calm and dignified, seemed flustered. Before he could respond, I spoke again. "Don't tell me you're just passing by. I've seen you these past few days." This time, he finally mustered the courage. "Anna, perhaps we should talk." I stared at him in silence. He swallowed and spoke again. "I know I've wronged you, but there are some things I need to explain." Chapter 7. I didn't really want to hear about his old, worn-out stories with his unforgettable first love, but seeing the sincerity in his eyes, I was curious to know what lies he would come up with this time. So, I nodded, signaling him to sit down while arranging flowers. I listened to him speak. "I didn't want to deceive you. After all, we lived together for most of our lives. Dying for you was a painful farewell, but it's better than—" I felt like laughing, but I restrained myself. Casually, I asked, "Better than you abandoning your wife and children in your 60s to seek a new lover, right?" Franklin, sparing my feelings was just an excuse. "Your real purpose was to keep your dignity and still be with your beloved. Unfortunately, the world is both big and small. Meeting me here was beyond your expectations." Perhaps I hit a nerve. Franklin opened his mouth but said nothing in the end. "Leave. I'll pretend you died, and you can pretend you never met me." With my dismissal, Franklin didn't linger. He then staggered to his feet and walked out with unsteady steps. Watching his back, I realized that in just a year and a half, Franklin had aged even faster. Once, even at nearly 70, he looked like he was only in his 50s. Now, saying he was over 70, no one would doubt it. He finally got to spend his life with his beloved unforgettable first love. without regrets. So why did he look so miserable? Mom, who was that uncle just now? Why are you crying? April's voice pulled me back to reality. I touched the corner of my eye and realized I had indeed shed tears. Seeing me like this, April asked softly, Mom, is he Mr. G? I nodded, not hiding the truth, and told her everything about our conversation. April gently held my hand and said, Mom, I know the reason. Chapter 8. It turned out that even before I did, April had noticed this old man who often lingered around the flower shop. Out of curiosity and combining it with my past experiences, April guessed the general situation. Worried about my safety, she looked into it further and quickly understood the whole story. It turned out that after moving to Kunming, the two did indeed enjoy a relatively happy life, going out together at sunrise and returning at sunset. Unfortunately, the elderly Franklin was not as vigorous as he once was. Moreover, after faking his death and changing his name, he became an idle old man without even a pension. But his unforgettable first love, Amanda Shin, was different. She had become a widow in her old age, leaving half of her estate to her children and the other half for her own use. Although it wasn't much, it was enough for a comfortable old age. Additionally, well-maintained, she was not only slim but also delicate and charming. Many people pursued her when she was young, and in old age, a long line of old men followed her. Every day at the park, many dance partners invited her to dance, including some younger than her unforgettable first love, with higher pensions. Over time, Amanda found Franklin's old man smell unbearable and complained that he wasn't as romantic as the charming old Wong next door. Without a pension, not only did he fail to provide emotional value, but he was also materially lacking. After explaining all this, April looked at me, hesitant to speak. I said, April, I know what you want to say. He doesn't regret faking his death and losing me. He regrets giving up everything and not getting what he wanted in return. Don't worry, I won't go back. After all, at my age, I see through love more easily than young people. If there's no love, there's no love. Rather than getting entangled and torturing myself, it's better to cut ties cleanly. Chapter 9. I went to the park. From a distance, I saw Amanda surrounded by a crowd. She had a slim figure, wearing a pink low-cut crop top that exposed her midriff, with a white cardigan over it. She paired this with beige wide-leg pants that had a slit up to her thigh and high heels. A group of old men stared at her, completely mesmerized, while Amanda danced passionately with an elderly man. Sometimes she was lifted high by the old man, and at other times they pressed close together, gazing into each other's eyes. Their various high-difficulty dance moves stunned everyone. Many people were recording videos with their phones, and even I was captivated by her dance. I had to admit, compared to me, Amanda's elderly life was indeed colorful and vibrant. As for Franklin, he stood there with a tense expression, staring intensely at the dancing pair. After the dance ended, he stepped forward, but before he could get close, other old men swarmed in. He was pushed to the edge of the crowd, seemingly wanting to stop them but realizing he had no right to do so. He could only stand there awkwardly. Indeed, life was not as he wished, but it was as I had thought. I didn't go back to the park to join the fun. Instead, Franklin started showing up at my door frequently. Sometimes it was because the wholesale flowers arrived, and he would rush to help me carry them. Sometimes he saw the pile of leaves and petals from my flower arrangements and would offer to clean up. Sometimes he brought lunch, saying he made my favorite sweet and sour pork. It turned out he knew what I liked to eat. He just didn't want to remember or bother to make it. Unfortunately, I not only learned to cook but became quite skilled at it. Looking at the lunch box he was holding, I opened my own. Sweet and sour pork is too greasy. I stopped liking it long ago. Now I eat what I cook myself. It's healthy and nutritious. He continued to come by frequently, but I no longer shut the door in his face. In the 3rd year of Franklin's downfall, he finally felt the harsh reality. Penniless and thrown out by Amanda, he finally called his daughter. Unfortunately, the daughter he raised refused to acknowledge him, claiming her father had been dead for 3 years. Franklin, undeterred, somehow found a way to contact reporters, announcing that he was the former president of G's Group. However, Everyone knew that the former president of G's Group, Franklin, had long since passed away, and they had all attended his memorial service. Many people came forward to testify that the Franklin in front of them was just an imposter who looked similar. Even his daughter posted a death certificate online, tearfully accusing this imposter of having sinister motives. Chapter 10. Franklin couldn't prove his identity. After receiving ridicule and sarcasm from netizens, he sank into depression once again. On the other hand, I, who was once considered fragile, became a hot topic among netizens because of Franklin's claim that he wasn't dead. I was voted the happiest woman on the internet. Without a doubt, I took advantage of this wave of attention, gaining hundreds of thousands of followers for my flower shop's account. With fresh and abundant bouquets, orders flooded in. I had no choice but to hire several employees to help manage the flower shop business. With this surge of traffic and diligent management, I made a substantial profit. I was so busy that I had no time to care whether Franklin, like before, visited the flower shop daily. Until a few months later, Franklin appeared in front of me with his daughter. He was no longer the disheveled man he once was. Dressed in a custom-tailored suit, he transformed back into the arrogant Franklin of the past. This time, with red-rimmed eyes, he and his daughter begged me to come home. I looked at them in surprise. Daughter? I'm sorry. I only have the one behind me. As for my husband, he's been dead for years. The grass on his grave is already 2 meters high. Franklin was stunned. He paused before saying, Anna, I truly know I was wrong. What do I need to do for you to forgive me? His daughter's expression changed. Mom, at your age, why are you still throwing a tantrum? Yes, Dad was wrong, but he was just trying to make up for the regrets of his youth. Besides, if a woman can't keep her husband's heart for 40 years, don't you think she has a problem too? I admit, my daughter was raised by Franklin, so it's natural she's close to him, but her blatant lies to excuse her father were laughable. I slapped her hard. Shut up. Since I walked out of the G family's door, we have no relationship anymore. You say I have a problem. Then let me ask you, if your husband kept a mistress, would that be your fault too? With that, my daughter burst into tears. She covered her face and warned Franklin, Dad, look at Mom. How can she say such cruel things? Forget it. I don't need a mother like this. She stormed out, leaving Franklin standing before me. I took a deep breath and ordered him to leave. You should go too. No one named G is welcome here. Chapter 11. I thought that after the last argument, Franklin wouldn't come back. After all, he had successfully resurrected his life, gaining power and fame once again. I believed that with his now stable finances and a polished appearance, his unforgettable first love would return to him. But to my surprise, ever since that day, Franklin started coming to my door frequently again. He always dressed appropriately, standing quietly at the door, peering inside. Sometimes he held flowers, other times he brought gifts, but most of the time, he just stood there quietly watching me, always with a smile. I ignored him, but he persisted day after day for a year, becoming a unique sight at my little flower shop. Someone filmed a video, which quickly went viral online. Many young people sighed, saying how romantic and devoted older people could be. Unlike the fickle younger generation, the internet has no memory. They affectionately called Franklin a cute old man and called me a stubborn old lady. They didn't understand why. At my age, I was so coy and refused to accept the old man's confession. I didn't respond, even though he treated me as a substitute. He had taken good care of me for decades, so I kept the truth to myself to preserve his dignity. However, as more and more people came to my flower shop to see Franklin and shoot videos, my shop and live stream account were affected. Some extreme young people attacked my account, posting abusive comments, and some even maliciously returned the flowers they bought from my live streams. The flowers, returned after several days of shipping back and forth, were no longer usable, and I lost tens of thousands of dollars in a short time. Helpless, I closed my live stream temporarily to avoid the turmoil and sold flowers only offline. But then, another piece of news quietly climbed to the top of the trending topics. Franklin's identity was exposed, along with our 40-year marriage. What followed was the revelation of how he faked his death and abandoned everything for his unforgettable first love. Netizens who were just spectators switched sides and started attacking Franklin. He went from being a cute old man to an old scumbag, while I became the poor, humiliated, and lonely old lady wandering in a foreign land. A popular blogger, with exceptional acting skills, investigated my background and, with tears in their eyes, narrated the story on camera. They told of my tragic past with no parents, how Franklin's first love chose a richer man and abandoned him. They narrated how, after being abandoned, Franklin couldn't forget his first love and treated me as a substitute, lifting me up to the clouds only to throw me down. In short, this storyline was indeed accurate but even more melodramatic than I had imagined. But the past was the past. Even if netizens and the video creator claimed they cried, I felt nothing. Chapter 12. Perhaps the video's popularity was too much. Franklin's life was affected. Since the surge in attention, he hadn't shown up again. My flower shop returned to its usual bustling state. Or more accurately, business was even better than before. Some netizens suggested I change my line of work, as running a flower shop isn't very lucrative, especially since I prioritize quality and appearance, leaving little profit. Some merchants approached me, wanting me to live stream and sell their products, but I refused them all. I just wanted to stick to my small patch of land and live a peaceful life. As the heat from the incident gradually faded, Amanda showed up. This was the third time I saw this woman. Unlike her appearance in the park, this time she wore an elegant and fitting cheapao. Her long black hair was pinned up with a hairpin, and as she stepped into my flower shop, her eyes were full of disdain. I thought it would be a large flower shop, but it's just a small workshop. I ignored her, and Amanda continued to wander around the shop. Finally, she looked at me and said, "I didn't expect him to find a substitute. You did resemble me when you were young, but now that you're older, you look even more like me. But unfortunately, a fake is a fake. Do you know why he came back to you?" Without turning my head, I replied, "I don't need to know." Perhaps my indifference annoyed Amanda, and she snapped, "You need to know. I'll tell you. It's because I ignored him. That's why he remembered you. You were a substitute in the past. You are now, and you always will be. If you've always acted proud, keep being proud. Don't ever go back to him." And Franklin, believe it or not, all I have to do is beckon, and he'll come running back to me. I quietly listened to her finish, my hands still busy with flower arranging. Netizens in the live stream were in an uproar. Netizen A, "Whoa, who's that? How can she be so arrogant?" Netizen B, "Do you even need to guess? It's obviously the old mistress. These two are a perfect match." Netizen C, "Grandma, slap her. If you don't, I will." Besides these comments, the feed was filled with people cursing her. Seeing she was about to leave after her harsh words, I asked calmly, "I'm still live streaming. Do you want to organize your words and say it again?" Amanda was taken aback. "Anastasia, you did this on purpose, didn't you? I didn't expect you to be so shameless." With that, she reached out to grab my phone, but I quickly flipped it face down on the table and slapped her across the face. "Listen, what happens between you and him is none of my business. If you have the ability to win over your man, do it openly. Coming here to show off. Are you feeling guilty?" Whether she felt guilty or not, Amanda left in a hurry after my scolding. Chapter 13. The originally declining popularity surged back into the top 3 due to the argument that occurred with Amanda's appearance. Netizens uncovered Amanda's identity and even found her short video account. Upon discovering that she was the lady who danced passionately with various partners in the park, many netizens released videos of her interacting closely with different dance partners. Besides her suggestive dance moves in the park, there were numerous private interactions. For instance, she was seen soaking in hot springs with different old men and entering and leaving hotels, living quite a wild life for her age. Additionally, her colorful dance outfits led netizens to nickname her Madame Flower. The once slim, well-maintained, and highly praised fashionable madam became a target of ridicule. Many people made memes of her, captioning them with "I want to seduce you." To mock her, netizens called for Franklin and Amanda to stay together and stop bothering me. The old lady. It was also a netizen's reminder that prompted me to file for divorce from Franklin. Receiving the lawyer's letter, Franklin came to see me again. This time, he didn't stop outside the door but walked into the flower shop. His eyes were full of guilt and reluctance as he looked at me. Anna, I heard what Amanda said. I was foolish. There was a time when I did see you as her substitute, taking her place by my side. But now I realize you are unique. Those years with you were genuine. Anna, 40 years. A full 40 years. If I didn't love you, could I have persisted? I stopped what I was doing and asked, does it matter now? Or was I not clear enough? Amanda was right. You remembered me because she didn't want you. If not for your disgrace and her indifference, if not for you seeing her true nature, would you remember me? If you had said this to me 3 years ago, maybe I would have believed you, but not now. Chapter 14. That night, as I was closing the flower shop, I saw April standing on the roadside talking with a man. Even in the dim streetlight, I could see the glimmer of tears in her eyes. I didn't know what they talked about, but after they said their goodbyes, April walked toward me. They got married recently, and he was diagnosed with cancer. Late stage. The doctor said he has at most 6 months to live. Oh, and that woman left. I'm quite happy about it. Though she said she was happy, her eyes were red. I asked, are you really happy? She nodded, then suddenly threw herself into my arms, sobbing. I should be happy, but I don't know why it hurts so much here. She pointed at her chest and then at her eyes. The tears won't stop. Actually, it's really good. It's karma. He deserves it. I was a bit worried about her state. Really? Really? I swear. After crying, whoever cries again is a dog. After all, I loved him for so many years. Even if it was a dog I raised for many years, I'd still feel sad if it died, right? I nodded, gently patting her shoulder. If, after I'm gone, you feel lonely, you can always find a companion. No need. April interrupted me. Being alone is fine. Aren't you planning to stay single too? Even though you loved him once. Looking back, it wasn't that much love. It was just unwillingness to let go. I couldn't deny her words. What deep love, what undying affection. It was all just unwillingness to let go. Whether it was me, April, Franklin, or Amanda. After refusing Franklin last time, my life returned to peace. Not long after receiving the lawyer's letter, they didn't show up in court as scheduled for the divorce. Instead, my daughter called me again. She asked, "You're so old. Do you really need to divorce? Aren't you afraid of being laughed at?" She made me laugh and I replied, "Divorce isn't promiscuity. Why should I be laughed at? The one who betrayed is the one to be laughed at." She was silent for a long time, finally responding, "All right. I hope you don't regret it." Chapter 15. On the day of the divorce proceedings, Franklin's condition visibly deteriorated. He seemed to be in a daze, as if his body was present, but his soul was lost somewhere. But none of that concerned me anymore. From that day forward, I was no longer Mrs. G. I was myself, Anastasia. After the divorce, I returned to Kunming. The internet is a magical place. Once the hype dies down, new things come up, and old topics are gradually forgotten, as if nothing ever happened. 3 months later, I accompanied April to the funeral of Daniel, the cancer patient. Daniel's parents were younger than me, and the pain of losing a child left them looking extremely haggard. As we were about to leave, Daniel's mother held April's hand and handed her a letter. "This is from Dan. He asked me to give it to you personally. He said he had no regrets being with you in this life. His only regret was not cherishing you enough. And, in his last moments, he was thinking of you. He wasn't avoiding you. He just didn't want you to see him bald and skeletal." April's expression was indifferent as she took the letter with a simple "oh." After the family left, April tore the letter into pieces without any hesitation and threw it in the trash. A good horse doesn't turn back to graze. If you don't love, you don't love. All that when pursuing a girlfriend, experiencing torturous melodramatic plotlines. Stuff is disgusting. This person has already ended in my world. There's no need to read those sappy words and upset myself. As she said this, her face was neither sad nor happy. I think she had truly moved on. Chapter 16. 6 months later, I saw Franklin again. He stood in front of the flower shop, dressed in a neatly pressed suit, holding a bouquet of roses, smiling broadly. For a moment, I was transported back to our early days when we first met. He stood under the office building, holding a bouquet of roses, waiting for me to get off work. Seeing me walk out of the flower shop, he hurried over, speaking softly. Anna, you're off work? Anna, you're so beautiful. I truly love you. Will you marry me? I promise to love you forever. I was stunned. The light in his eyes didn't seem fake. But what was this act now? I quickly asked. Franklin, how old are you? Still playing these tricks? We're already divorced. Please stop bothering me. Let's maintain some dignity for each other, okay? Hearing my words, he froze, repeatedly muttering, Divorced? Divorced from what? You haven't even agreed to my proposal yet. My daughter got out of the car and walked over to Franklin. Dad, you're confused again. Have you forgotten that you and Mom are already divorced? Come back with me and stop wandering around. I didn't understand what was happening but had a vague suspicion. My daughter explained. Dad was diagnosed with dementia last year. His condition is worsening. He often forgets many things, but he never seems to forget that he loves you. I know it's impossible for you two to be together again, so I'll make sure he doesn't bother you anymore. At the end, she bit her lip. Mom, I'm sorry. I was too headstrong and said things that hurt you. I'm sorry. Chapter 17. Later on, Franklin still showed up at my flower shop door from time to time, holding a bouquet of flowers. At his worst, he forgot who he was, but when asked by passers-by, he still remembered his greatest love, Anna. April told me all this. Later, he was taken home by his daughter and given 24-hour care, never getting lost again. The latest news I heard about him was that he had passed away at the age of 76. The year I turned 70, his daughter called to inform me, saying that even in his last moments, he was calling my name, but I felt no ripples in my heart. As for Amanda, after ruining her reputation, she continued mingling with various old men. Unfortunately, one time, the wives of these old men confronted her. In the tussle, she accidentally fell down the stairs. Strangely, the stairs weren't long or high, but she hit the back of her head on the ground, and she was dead before she reached the hospital. Of the three of us, only I lived long, reaching 98 years old. April met me when she was 25, and I was just 60. Now, she was 63. I lay in my warm bed, and she was there with me in my final moments. I believe she will live a happy life and die in a warm bed too.